Boy, do I have something nice for you today, as well as something nice for myself. This time it comes from Sparks, a new Patreon provider of mine who was crazy enough to send me his kit, which, if any of you are familiar with, is not cheap. The Razer HD Gen 2E 1-6 goes for about $1,400 right now on Amazon. So for him to be kind enough to send that was awfully generous. So Sparks, thank you so much. Before we go any deeper, let me pull off this plastic cover, because when you buy a $1,400 optic from Vortex, they go all out as far as packaging goes. So first off, there's that little plastic shield which goes over it, which then shows off this beautiful box. Everything you're going to need is right there. Yes, this is a second focal plane scope. Yes, it is made in Japan. Yes, it is MRAD and is the VMR2 reticle. Funny how on this side it doesn't say made in Japan, but that side it does. But I guess you only have the barcode on one side. I don't know why they wouldn't just put made in Japan under it, but whatever. From here, we're going to pull out this second outer shell to reveal this beautiful silver shell. And this is just all aesthetics at this point. But now we're going to crack this open. You're going to find all the paperwork right on top. So these are ones for the actual scope. That's about it. And one's for the reticle, showing you how to use it. There are all your detents, ranging, stuff like that. Keep in mind, this being a second focal plane scope, for you to do any sort of ranging like this, you have to be at maximum power, which is 6x, which is fine, because without getting into too much detail for the final review, the 6x on this thing is retarded. Lens cloth for cleaning it, and then this. Please do what they say. If you don't have a torque wrench and you're going to be torquing down of any scope, whether it be really cheap or expensive like this, the last thing you want to do is destroy it by clamping your rings on too tight and deforming the outside of the tube. Please follow this. And there you go. It's an empty box. But there's a reason for it being an empty box. But before we continue that, it's not foam, which is odd, because the foam that came on even my SIG 1-5 was a nicer setup than this, but also I felt it would hold it more secure. I always get nervous with cardboard, because cardboard is fairly abrasive, that it would rub and mess up the finish, but I guess, you know, that's just me being me. However, it's still a nice layout and it holds it in there pretty tight. But Sparks couldn't send the scope to me inside the box because, hold on, let me get this all away, and back inside the sleeve. I don't want to ruin this box, because if he does decide to sell it, it'll make it that much less valuable. Anyway, he couldn't put it inside the box because he left it on his American Defense QD mount. Right off the bat when I picked this up, I was surprised by how light it is. It's a big honking piece of metal. It's huge. Reason for that is this is only 21 ounces. Now, 21 ounces is still pretty heavy, especially when I compare it to like my Steiner P4XI, which is 17 ounces. That's 4 ounces, but this being a Gen 2E, it is 4 ounces lighter than the original Gen 2 standard 1-6, which is 25 ounces. So that's a huge weight savings. 21 ounces is still heavy, but you don't sacrifice anything other than the weight with this thing. I've been playing around with this for the last week, and it has been sensational. I really am at a loss for words when I come to describe this, so it's going to be interesting to try to give this a final conclusion in my review video. This just being an unboxing, though, I'm not going to dive too deep into that, with the exception of, even though it's not a review for the mount is friggin' awesome. And because this thing is brand new, you absolutely need a throw lever for this thing, because this is tight. It takes a lot of force right now, and I'm in a pretty warm room. It's like 71 degrees in here right now, and it still takes a lot of force to turn this. Outside in the cold, you cannot turn it without a throw lever and canting your entire rifle or setup over. So absolutely need a throw lever on this thing. And other than that, everything else is typical Vortex, but not just typical Vortex, the absolute highest typical Vortex. So if you don't know what that's like, that is, everything on this thing is perfect. The illumination ring is not only fantastic, but it's also locking. So you have to pull to disengage, then you can change the illumination. And of course, there's an offsetting between every on setting. 1 to 11 on this one, you get it to where you want it, and you push it back into lock. It is fantastic, and it makes a whole lot of sense, because what happens if you're sliding it into your bag and it clicks onto the highest setting for, some reason, and you don't realize it. You pull it out of the bag and all of a sudden, oh, shoot, my illumination is dead. That is one reason why the Trijicon AccuPoints are really nice. However, we're not going to get into that right now. So the locking ring is fantastic. Of course, everything is super tight and solid. Detents are strong and pronounced, and once it's in there, it's not coming out. Under the caps, we're going to find these monstrously chonky turrets. But don't take that as a bad thing. That is an awesome thing. They're big, so what that means is as you go to click up and up and up, or down, 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 you will actually physically see it jump from one stadia line to the next. So this way you don't have to worry about, oh, did I click it over one too many or two too many? It's very easy to see that. Another great thing is that every click is 0.2 of an MRAD as opposed to 0.1. You might say that's not as fine or accurate, and that is true, but when it comes to a 1 to 6, you'd be more likely to pull a shot or not be on target as good as 0.1 of a mil would be at most distances. Most Vortex scopes already have a really good turret, but this is beyond good. This is pinpoint accurate, very tight, very sharp detents. It's actually hard to move the windage turret, which is cool. Also, another thing that's cool is Vortex goes to the trouble of doing a right and a left, so this way you know where you're moving your bullet impact towards your reticle. A lot of scopes don't do that, but for this price point, it absolutely should. Another thing goes for the adjuster on the back. This thing is very tight. You do not have to worry about this thing coming loose on you and shifting while you're shooting. Another nice thing is when you're looking through this and you're adjusting it, it does not change the shift of the reticle at all, so you know that this is nice and tight in there. The caps are absolutely fantastic. The machining on this is second to none. Everything is freaking awesome on it. I'll touch on the illumination just a little bit. The illumination is ridiculously bright. Okay, I'll leave it at that. Without touching into too much more detail about the scope, the 1X on this thing is fantastic. The 6X is even more fantastic, and everything in between is just as fantastic. And this scope has one of the best party tricks I've ever seen, which is when you're perfectly lined up behind it and you're looking through it, the ring around it, the entire body of the scope melts away. It disappears, especially in lower light. It's really odd. When you look through this thing at night and you're just panning around a room, it disappears completely. It's like nothing I've ever experienced. That's what you get for spending as much money as you do on an optic. You're paying for that glass quality, which you can't make up with cheaper optics. You just can't. Initial impressions of this thing are ridiculously high. The fit and finish is perfect. The color of it is fantastic. If this was mine and I was going to be using this every day, I would really consider sending out the mount, especially a mount like this, to get coated to match the scope. I think that would be fantastic. But this is not mine. This is Sparks. So to end this video, Sparks, thank you so much for being the mad lad that you are and sending this over for review. I've been absolutely in love with this thing. It's going to really pain me to send this back to you, but much appreciation for everything that you've done. So thank you very much for watching, and stay tuned for my review coming up of this thing soon.